Yeah, we bring reviews of your house, talk to our dudes of your house. I bring my views of your house, wrestling truths of your house. We talk to you in your house, we keeps it cool in your house, we keeps it cool in your house. I'm spitting truths in your house. Yes, Mark's hating on his fans, Becky's niche on the man. Play with two like a lions, household a dangerous alliance. I am a diamond like Cody, and I'm overcoming like Kobe. No, they cannot hold me. Come listen, I'm hosting, critiquing, I'm boasting. This wrestling I'm knowing.
My name is Brian Pillman Jr., and you're listening to the In Your House podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to In Your House, starring Alakan House. This is the People's Podcast. Haha. How's it going, y'all? It is me, once again, your boy, Khan, coming at you with some fantastic wrestling content. Guys, we just got so much things going on here at In Your House. So much things. It's growing. This monster is just growing and getting bigger and bigger and huger, and there's nothing that can stop it. Guys, we are listened to in 13 countries. We are listened to across the United States. And oh, of course, we are listened to right here, back at home, across our home state of Indiana. You guys already know what it is. This podcast is jumping, it's hopping, it's going crazy. As the kids say, it is lit, fam, and it absolutely is. That's what we got going on here, guys. We've got so much more to throw at you guys. We just did the 50th episode, and this is episode 51, guys. I didn't think we was going to get to 50 episodes this quick. I also didn't think we was going to have all the growth that we've had in such a short amount of time. I mean, it took us 3 months to get to the 1,000th download, and now here it is. It's only been a week, and I honestly think it's only going to take 2 more weeks for us to hit 2,000 downloads. This rise is meteoric. You guys can see us at Heroes and Legends 13 over in Fort Wayne, Indiana, October 5th. We will be there podcasting at Podcast Alley. It's going to be a phenomenal time. Also, guys, we have just been approved for a pro wrestling tees store. Yes, you guys heard that. You guys heard that right. We are approved for a pro wrestling tee store, so there's going to be merch coming at you guys very, very soon, because that's what we love to do here, man, is we love to talk about professional wrestling, and one of the biggest things that I love about professional wrestling is just where it's come here in 2019 with this youth movement and the young wrestlers coming up and transcending the business. I love it. So anytime I get a chance to talk to some fresh young talent, I'm gonna do it. And that's why I'm happy to bring on my guest, Bret Havoc. How's it going, bro?
It's going good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on, man. How are you feeling after that ladder match at a Merge 44 Fly High?
Oh, man. You know, not a lot of people can say that they've experienced a ladder match, let alone multiple ones.
Yeah.
That was actually my 10th ladder match that I've been in. And I can tell you this, I've been in multiple different types of matches, and for whatever reason, I've never walked away from a ladder match feeling the greatest at all. I mean, those are the number one most painful matches that I've walked away from. So yeah, I'm hurting pretty bad.
But still you prevail, and still the marathon continues for you as a wrestler, and that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about your career, where you've been, where you're going. So let's go ahead and start with the question that I always love to ask everybody that's affiliated with this wonderful professional wrestling business, and that is this, man. Where did it all start for you? Where did this love for professional wrestling start?
Well, I mean, it all kind of started, I guess, basically from birth. You know, kind of a funny story with it is my mom was a huge fan of Bret Michaels.
Yeah.
And my father was a huge fan of Bret Hart, and a big wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So as silly as that may sound, they both kind of said, "Hey, we like the name, you know, the name Bret."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why? You know, I love Bret Hart. Let's name him after this." And it's kind of like, you know, I was named after a pro wrestler essentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was hard not to fall in love with the business from
Yeah.
from you know from the youngest age.
Right. And
So
and that is exactly what I like to hear. And when I say that, I mean so much of this young crop of talent has it's all started somewhere. I had a conversation with my co-host, and we were talking off air, and I was like, man, I don't know many people that just like are randomly flipping channels and like, oh, what's this, pro wrestling? Oh, this is cool. Like most everybody I know, Brett, it's been passed down from somebody, a parent, a sibling, a cousin. It always seems like it's passed down, and it seems like it was the exact same case for you.
yeah, without a doubt.
So, obviously, now you're in the business. You go under the name Bret Havoc. Let me ask you, how long have you? First off, let me ask you this. I'm gonna get to that point. I'm gonna get to that point about asking you how long you've been in the business. But I also want to ask you this: At what point were you like, I have to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this business. At what point did you decide that you wanted to do this?
I mean, honestly, for the longest time, I mean, I could tell you back in elementary school I was saying it, but I mean, goodness, as many times I've been hit in the head, it's hard to tell. But I mean, I can tell you it was at least middle school, because that's when I really started getting heavily into sports. You know, I was playing baseball, I was playing football, got into wrestling. And, you know, of course, the coaches here and there saying how, you know, you're doing great in this, you're doing great in that. And I'm like, you know, yeah, that's great. But guys, like, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. you know?
Your mind was made up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they were always, it was the silliest thing to them. You know, my wrestling coach was like, well, you know, you go on to be a collegiate or Olympic athlete. Well, that's not what I want to do. And football coach, same thing. Baseball, you know, it just wasn't my thing, you know. I mean, I stuck with wrestling longer than any of them. I absolutely loved, you know, baseball, football, and wrestling being my number one favorite. But, I mean, look at it. It's amateur wrestling, and it only helped, you know, get me ready to be turned into a pretzel, you know, in the professional aspect of it as well. So.
And, yeah, man, and that's – and a lot of the stories that I do hear, a lot of them started out as amateur wrestlers, and I think that's where you are really getting a real, like, when I think of guys like that, of course I think of guys like, you know, Shelton Benjamin, and of course Kurt Angle, and Chad Gable. A lot of these guys wrestled, like, you know, collegiately in the amateurs, and I just think that aspect, that amateur wrestling, I think it really just breeds a fantastic crop of talent for the professional circuit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's surprising too, because, you know, my friends that I wrestled with, they supported me, of course, but honestly, there was a good half the team at least who they would hear this. And even though I was, you know, a team leader and everything else, and someone they could count on, they still would give me such a hard time and just be like, yeah, you know, how's it going to feel when you step away from doing this real stuff to go do, you know, this sideshow? And I mean, it never stopped me. You know, it was just one of those things that it's like, yeah, like you said, there is a lot of amateur wrestlers who have came into the pro wrestling side of it, but yeah, I wasn't around any of those guys that were interested in jumping on the bandwagon with me to do it. So,
And we're definitely happy to have you in wrestling and everything that you bring to the table. I definitely am interested in coming. So I was kind of stalking you a little bit, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was stalking
Not
you
the
a
first
little
to tell
bit.
me that. Yeah.
But I was kind of stalking you a little bit, and I'm like, man, he's got like, you've got a good look, man. Like, you look like money. Like, and I'm like, man, he looks like somebody that belongs in professional wrestling, and it just made me think. I'm like, man, and then the name Bret Havoc, I just there's few names that kind of just jumped to me, and when I read Bret Havoc, and this is the same thing that I told another one of my guests. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I have a family that's like in like the entertainment industry over there in LA. So I have this sense about me, Bret, that when I see something that I think is marketable, it just something clicks in my brain. And when I saw Bret Havoc, and then I read it, and I was like, huh, that's short, sweet, it's cool, it seems marketable. And then I said it out loud, and I was like, Bret Havoc, and I'm like, yeah, that's money right there. That's money right there. So you got a look, you got a great name, and now I just want my listening audience to get to know you better, so they can follow your career, and a career that it is probably going to go extremely, extremely far if you decide to take it that far, Bret.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely been the goal. Whether it's in or out of wrestling. I mean, there's definitely multiple aspects that I feel like I've done my best to set myself up to succeed in some way, even if to me there's always got to be a backup plan. And some people just take the gamble and go, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I feel like I've done my best to do that so that I can be ready for it. I mean, prior to even getting into wrestling, I was doing acting classes and everything else. Not just, it wasn't to help with wrestling. I mean, I watched it for years, so to me that was all going to come naturally. But I mean, I'm sure it did help a little bit, at least as far as getting in front of an audience. Because I mean, I think for anyone, whether they want to admit it or not, the first time I got plopped in front of an audience, I said, oh, I got this. And it was scary, and that wasn't even wrestling. That was, doing a little high school play. And it was scary. But after that, I was like, you know what? I can do this in front of, thousands of people for all I care. I mean, nothing's going to, I enjoy it. I like a big audience. So, people say they don't like crowds. I love a good crowd. So,
and I relate there too, man. I mean, I've done hip hop. Let's see, I'm 32 now. I've been doing hip hop for at least 15 years. I've been in front of crowds. I've done. Back in 2017, I toured the Midwest and did a few shows in Ohio and did a few shows in Indiana. And I agree with you there, Bret. I too echo that sentiment. I feel comfortable in front of a crowd, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It just, to me, it's one of those where people talk about how they say, feed off of the crowd, and some people just go, okay, but they don't understand what you're saying. I feed off of that crowd, no matter what, whether it's good vibes or bad vibes, as much as we don't like it, like, feed it to me, and that's going to help me go even more. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you said that, man, because I am so glad to hear. So before I ask you this next question, I'll ask you this question. How long have you been wrestling professionally?
I mean, I guess it's kind of a take it as you will. Some guys change it and some won't. I started training in 2007. And I got shoved through training because I joined late.
Okay.
Not my choice. It was just I had graduated and I wanted to know, where can I go to be a wrestler, because everyone kept saying you got to be 18 to do this legally. So I waited until I was 18, and I found somewhere. They said, hey, we're already almost 6 months through training. You're supposed to train for a year. We'll see what we can do. Within 6 months, I blew past, the 4 other trainees that were there. They threw me in my first match in November, which thankfully was just a battle royal. I had my first actual match in 2008, of February, and it pretty much went from there for the next, 4 years. And then I took a year off, and then and came back, just had to take a year to kind of rejuvenate the body and had some personal things going. So, I mean, I guess to answer your question, sorry to make it long-winded there,
That's
but
all right.
Actively, I've been active for 10 years. Some of the guys just say, yeah, you've been in 11 years. But, I mean, I did take the time completely away, didn't follow anything with wrestling. Like, I mean, it was just I had to mentally check myself out. So, to me, actively in the business, I've been in for 10 years. If we count the year that I took away because it was in between, then 11. So however you want to mark it up.
Okay, so you're actually vetted in the business, but man, you're still really young.
Yeah.
So that
I would have done it even younger if I could have, but being told that I had to wait, that was kind of that was tough. I was ready to go when I was, 15, 16 years old. I was ready to go and was being told, hey, you got to wait a couple more years. So
yeah. But you know what? Look at you now, man. I mean, yeah, it sucks that you didn't get to start when you really wanted to, but you've come so far, just in this amount of time, and you're wrestling. I mean, you're doing regular shows, and who knows, man? You never know what's around the corner for you, and that's why anytime I get a chance, I get the honor, the privilege, the opportunity to talk to you guys, the talent. The biggest thing that I just want to tell you guys is just keep pushing, bro. Keep pushing, because you're going to get there, man, and a lot of you guys are going to get there. I mean, from what I see just here in Indiana, I follow a lot of talent. Like, I'm not one of those guys that, I'm just following the WWE or I'm gonna ride AEW sack and act like I care about indie wrestling. Like, no, like, I care about the indies up the street from my house. You know what I mean? Like, that are doing it in National Guard armories and pizza places, and you know what I mean, at high schools. I've been to those shows because I just enjoy wrestling at its core. You know what I mean? Right.
No, without a doubt. I mean, it's all in a big bubble, and people just they have their own opinions of different things, but I fully agree with you. Yeah, without a doubt there.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoy it at its core. So when I say that I watch a lot of talent, I mean I'm even watching my local Indiana talent. Like, I was thinking about going to that Emerge 44 show, but I couldn't make it because of my son's game, and I was like, I'll catch the next one. But man, I wanted to see this young group of talent do their thing because I follow you guys. Like, I follow a lot of you guys on Facebook right now, just in seeing what you guys do, watch how you guys promote yourselves and everything, and I'm just like sitting here watching as a fan, as a complete and total fan, because I'm not in the business. I haven't done anything. I haven't put my body on the line like you guys have. I'm not in the business, so I come from a complete fan's perspective. When I say I watch you guys, and I enjoy it. You know what I mean? I enjoy watching this local talent just keep the business alive. You know what I mean, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be someone that's going to keep it going, right?
No doubt. Absolutely, man. And I like I said, I enjoy watching you guys. So what is it? The next question that I wanted to ask you, Bret, is let my audience know. I want them to know. I want them to follow you. I want them to get to know you more. Who is Bret Havoc? And when I say who is Bret Havoc, I mean who is the character Bret Havoc? I
mean, a lot of people have, again, good and bad, I'd like to think more good than bad, but a lot of people have said very different things, just to me in general, and what the entity of it is. You know, when I first got into the business, I had told myself that I'm going to get in to be a professional wrestler, and I am going to be one of the biggest heels that anyone's ever seen.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the tallest, but you know, I mean, the idea was I had that drive that I was like, I can portray a good bad guy. Yeah. Well, I got in and realized that obviously I have too pretty of a face to be a bad guy, because I've basically been a good guy my whole career, man. You know, it's one of those things that it's just, you know, we some people play the characters of things, and I bounced around with it for a few years. But what it comes down to is like I found my niche basically when I came back from my year off. You know, I came back and I got a promoter in my ear saying, you know, I just want you to do, you know, to be this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, and I'm listening to it, but at the same time, like, am I really about to come back to this? And it was hard. Like I said, it was just a very tough time, you know. Of course, I loved wrestling, and you know, back then I was just like, hey, like, you're about to make this jump back into this. Like, are you sure? You know, as much as you love it, are you sure that you're ready? Because it could go 100 miles an hour. And I just looked to him and said, hey, listen, the only thing that's going to make me comfortable is if you just let me go out and be me. And he was like, well, who are you? I was like, well, we're about to find out, you know. And that's what I think sets me apart from a lot of it is, you know, obviously we've got to have those characters that are being played, you know, here and there. But when it comes down to it, people say, you know, who are you? Well, if you know me outside of the ring, that's exactly who I am inside the ring. You know, I can have a little bit of an attitude sometimes. I mean, not saying anyone else couldn't, but you know, I like to smile, have a good time, and make everyone else have a good time, you know. And if that means, you know, that I'm going out to be a heel tonight, I guarantee there's still going to be some sort of laughter in it, you know, because somebody's going to be a fan of the heel, you know. And it's just my character. Honestly, anyone who pays close enough attention would tell you that babyface Bret Havoc is still a heel. And some people don't understand that, but it's just it's what I've been told makes me different and sets me apart from others is that they're like, you know, if you're being a heel, you act like a heel. But if you're a babyface and people watch you close enough, even though they cheer you and they like you and you can get them behind you, a lot of the things you do are, you know, they come across pretty cocky, which is kind of a heel thing. So, but you know, it's just like I said, it's not me trying to make a fool of them. It's just me being me, and you know, that's where I'm at. If I can make a mockery of the heel and crack a joke at him, that kind of makes me, you know, seem like a bad guy. But I'm getting the crowd behind me because that's, you know, so
that's what you got to do,
right? I mean, the character of me is just, you know, laughable, have a good time, party guy, whatever you want to call it. You know, good role model, like just everything wrapped up into one. Obviously, we got, you know, we've got the beautiful side of things, and we've got the Havoc side of things. You know, when I debated changing my name early on in my career, I had a close friend of mine look at me and he said, "Why would you want to change your name?" And I just said, you know, it's not the Bret part, it's just the Havoc part. Like, nothing about me says Havoc, in my opinion. He said, everything about you says Havoc. He said, you kick people in the face for a living. He's like, you go out and just bounce all over the place. He's like, you're creating chaos, you're creating havoc. He's like, keep the name. So, you know, it's, yeah, I guess that's just the lifestyle and the way that it is. Like, I've always just been this, you know, wild, outgoing person that, you know, just wants to bring, you know, joy and chaos at the same time. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I like it. I like it because I obviously I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, professional wrestling podcasts, Brett, and one of the biggest things that I've heard, not just one, not just two, not just three, but I mean several different professional wrestlers that now podcast. I've heard them say the same thing, and it's that what you are doing, Brett, from what everything that you told me and me breaking it down and then now I'm gonna put it in the barrel and throw it back at you, is you're just living the gimmick, man. You're just being yourself times 100, right?
Basically, I mean, more or less, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I did the acting classes, I tried to play characters, and I don't want to say that it was myself failing on it. I mean, because we know when we screwed something up, we know that.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could to play different roles. You know, a lot of what I got was go out and be the white meat babyface, or go out and be the cocky heel. Right. Well, okay, that seems so typical, you know. And I did those, and they worked, but they quickly, you know, I kept walking through the curtain going, this isn't me. Yeah. You know, like this isn't me. And trying to be the sadistic guy or the crazy guy, whatever you want to call it, like it was like, okay, this works when I'm doing a role, like when I'm in a play or when I'm this, but what makes more sense and what grabs people more is when I'm just being me. Yeah. I feel more comfortable. I feel more at home. You know, don't tell me how to do this. Just say, hey, you're going to be a heel or a face, and I'll take care of the rest. So that's my comfort zone there.
Yeah, just let you do your job, right? Just let you do your job, and you will go out there and you'll just do your thing, and that's, and especially with the time that you've put in, Brett. I feel like, you know, once again, I don't know anything about the backstage thing of it. That's your guys' exclusive thing, and I'm not here to impede on that. But it seems like when you're vetted as much as you are, that's all that needs to be said is, hey, you're playing a heel, or hey, you're playing a face, and that's it. And you're like, all right, cool. I'm just about to go out there and I'm about to be heel me or face me, whatever, and I'm gonna do it naturally. You know, I can only assume that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, that really is. You know, it never seemed like it was the right thing when it was being almost force-fed, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if we get to a bigger stage, you know, of like you were saying, you know, WWE, ROH, TNA, any of those, if they're saying, hey, you go out and do this character, you're going to go out and do this character. But that's the joy of us being on the indies, is that we have, you know, at least I can say that I do, because I've put in, you know, the time now. I've been able to say, hey, look, you know, from 5-6 years in, like, hey, I'm going to just do this, trust me. And for the most part, I've had a lot of trust being put into it, and I haven't disappointed. So,
and that's great, man. And of course, man, you being, you know, hot on the scene right now here locally in Indiana, and it seems like you're keeping yourself pretty busy with this wrestling thing. Do you have a lot of dates coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I've got actually next Friday I'm going back out to Memphis.
Oh wow!
We just went out there for St. Patrick's Day, so I'm looking real forward to going back there. I mean, I'm sure it won't be all the shenanigans that it was for St. Patty's Day, but man, Memphis was just beautiful. I've been to Nashville and Chattanooga and different places in Tennessee, but that was the first time I went, you know, to the west part of it. I mean, it's right there on the tip of the west of Tennessee, and oh man, that was without a doubt one of the most memorable Tennessee trips I've ever had. So
really,
so I'm super excited to go back for that.
Yeah. So and the reason that I asked you that, if you're keeping yourself busy, and of course, once we're done having this little chat, I'm gonna have you plug everything that you're doing on all your social medias. Of course, I mean that's the respectful thing to do, and that's what we do here at In Your House. But I wanted to ask you, Brett, with all the time that you're spent probably hitting the gym, working shows, and of course trying to take a breather from wrestling at the same time to just do you and do your own thing. Let me ask you: have you been keeping up with any of the current events in professional wrestling? The bigger upper echelon indies, and of course the WWE.
I mean, on a regular basis, I do have one of my dirt sheets that I go to and kind of keep up on some things with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I try everything to keep up on that and see what's going on. Honestly, I think Impact went off TV or something. I was keeping up with them on a consistent basis, but now it's like all I'm finding is just results on them. WWE stuff, obviously. I mean, that's the end game. You know, some people can say that it's not, or whatever their opinion's going to be. I mean, I'll tell you right now, that's where I'm at. That's the end game.
Yeah.
I would love to go, you know, to 4 or 5 other different places that, you know, and get my name there as well. But I mean, if I didn't and I got the call tomorrow, like that's the be all end all is there. So. Yeah. And some people disagree with that, like I said, but that's all I've ever said is that if I could make it there, then I achieved what I set out to do.
And that's your goal, that's your dream, to go to the WWE, and it doesn't matter. And if that's the case, Bret, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, honestly, bro. Like, it doesn't matter if they're saying, oh, well, WWE's not the end-all, be-all, blah, blah, blah. You know, now there's going to be an alternative. But for you, Bret, for you, it does not matter, because your goal, your dream, your brass ring, as it were, is to get to the WWE. And nobody can take that from you, and nobody can tell you otherwise. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, and it's, you know, kind of what you would touch base on earlier in a sense was, you know, the looking the part. You know, I ran into Adam Cole, I would say 2 years ago, but I feel like it's probably been 3 or 4 now.
Wow.
But I had ran into him at a show in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. And, you know, I just wanted to kind of introduce myself as we're supposed to.
Yeah.
And I saw him. I was like, I got to go introduce myself before, you know, the day is over.
Yeah.
And then he happens to come across, you know, myself, and he just looks at me and goes, "You're a wrestler, aren't you?" I was like, "Well, yeah, yes, I am." I'm like, "And you're Adam Cole?" And he was like, "Yeah." You know, I introduced myself. I was just like, I was flattered by it, but I was just like, man, I was like, how did you know I was a wrestler? He's like, "You look like a worker." And you know, the guy stands about the same height as me, and like, I'm not very tall, you know, myself, but you know, we're almost standing right here, and just for him to say, "You look like a worker," I'm going, okay, I must be doing something right.
You gotta be, man. Yeah, you
that
gotta
be. That made me feel good. That's one of those moments, you know, that just kind of happened.
And those moments like that, a moment like that had to, you know, just thinking a moment like that would have to tell you, like, okay, I'm moving in the right direction here. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think he was looking for, like, the promoter or something.
Yeah.
And I myself, I was just standing. It was before doors had opened. I'm standing out just looking, you know, out at the ring and kind of the setup. And like I said, I saw him across the way, you know, turn away and look, and it's like I get that little finger pointed at me. He's like, "You're a worker." So, you know, it was super cool.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible. So I always ask this. I've been asking this to all my guests, wrestlers, promoters alike that I've interviewed. I have to ask you, man, what are your thoughts as a wrestler, as a young wrestler coming up? And I like to say this, and this is, I guess, my tagline. I guess I've said it so many times. I guess it can be, but Bret, we have a wrestling renaissance upon us where professional wrestling in 2019, from what I can see from my perspective, is about to have another explosion where things are about to ramp up. Things are about to be incredible. A lot of you guys there in the business are going to be very, very profitable because of this. So I have to ask you, what are your thoughts, Bret, on the budding company from Jacksonville, Florida, AEW?
I mean, I feel like something big is going to happen. with people, honestly, the way I keep looking at it is I feel like the E is almost being put up, hostage by some of their guys, where they're just like, hey, you're going to give us more money, and the people that it's benefiting the most are the boys, the boys and the girls in this case. I mean, they're the ones who, if they want to be kept, like, they're going to get their worth out of it.
Yeah.
And good for them. I can't knock that. Just trying to figure out exactly how it's going to go down when it goes down.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those things that when you're getting the same thing from this and from that, people they want something new. They want change.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big fan and a big believer of that is, and that's no disrespect to any companies out there or whatever else. It's just the fact that, when you're getting the same thing, then they want to change, Yep. It's no different than our own characters. When people consistently are seeing it, it just gets to the point where it either grows stale or they want to see a change. And, like I said, we've all went through it. I mean, most of us have went through it.
Yeah.
I've seen myself, in some companies over the years rise to the top and be told, hey, the fans don't care anymore, or I can hear them not caring anymore, and they dislike it.
Yeah.
So it's just, but with that being said, there's so much talent out there right now, and all these question marks being raised. Like, I'm interested. I'm sitting back with just the popcorn, just kind of thinking, well, what's going to happen?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's the one that really intrigues me too. For my own personal preference of it is the one with Ambrose, Moxley, whichever. Now, I've met the guy as Moxley, so I mean, I would have loved to see him come into the business as Moxley, but I mean, I know that wasn't going to be the case, and I'm trying to figure out, are we being worked? Are they being, who's being worked here? But man, he's amazing. So whoever he lands with, barring that he isn't stepping away, which I don't think he's completely done, it's going to be, my eyes are going to go there. Because, like I said, I was around the guy for the first couple of years that I was even in the business. So I want to watch where he's at, and he's one of the ones that I definitely have to tune in to watch.
Man, I totally agree with you there, Brett. I remember years ago, I wasn't a huge independent wrestling watcher, as far as, like, I was still going to, like, the local shows in my local area, but I wasn't watching, and I entered this group Better Than You, and they watch a lot of independent wrestling, so my buddy, he turned me on to Moxley, and when I watched his promos, like, his matches were great. Don't get me wrong, his matches were great, but the promos, man, the promos just blew me away, and I was like, I just want this guy to get a microphone on WWE television, and I remember, because I was there for his debut in Indianapolis, when it was 2012 Survivor Series in Indianapolis, Bankers Life Fieldhouse. The Shield debuted. I was there for that, and I was like, yep, I was like, dude, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that Ambrose? I even had one of my buddies text me, because he was lower, I was higher. I was in the higher seats, he was in the lower seats, and he texted me, he was like, is that Dean Ambrose? And I'm like, yup. and I was so, like, hot to hear what they were going to say when they went on Monday Night Raw, and then they gave him the mic that first night and he cut the promo on behalf of the Shield, and it was great, and I was like, oh man, it's money. But as the years went on, he was just a little less inspired, and of course, the situation with the United States Championship run, and then the stuff with Brock Lesnar and everything, and I just always wanted Mox to do good, and when that promo came out, the video of him breaking out of the quote unquote asylum that he was in during that, I watched that and I was like, oh man, this is wherever he's going. And for me to tell you that long-winded story is to say that I'm with you, Bret. Wherever he goes, my eyes are going to go there.
Yeah, the guy is money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
without a doubt. I mean, and money. I mean, he's just an amazing talent in general. So the first time I even met this guy, or I guess maybe had a conversation with, was, to this day, I'll never get it out of my head.
Yeah.
I tell the story to people all the time, and it's definitely one for the ages if you could even imagine it. So
I can't, but that's incredible, man. That is incredible. So, man, this was a great episode, man. Go ahead and plug away your social media, any shows that you're going to be at that you want to plug away. Let my listeners know where they can follow Bret Havoc. All
right, guys. Yeah, so for the most part, I've been doing most of the stuff in the Midwest area. So be over in Portland, Indiana this Saturday at the J Community Center. Yeah. And every Friday when I get back on board with it, I've been taking a little hiatus from it. Every Friday in Indianapolis, we have WCWO wrestling there. And obviously with the merge, we've got that is the first Saturday of every month at Parkside in Columbus, Indiana. Like I said, we've got Memphis coming up next Friday. I've got Naples, Michigan coming up. Let's see here. It'll be in June 15th, I believe.
Okay.
So we're starting to kind of jump ahead a little bit. But yeah, I mean, so it's all over the place. You know, getting ready to make a return back to Cleveland, which they've dubbed me as the Midwest best kept secret there. So they got an extra moniker in there with that.
Yes, sir.
So, and if anyone wants to catch me, you can catch me on Facebook at Havoc. It's BretHavoc. The proper way to spell the stuff, as I would tell people. Instagram, Bret_Havoc, and Twitter. I've been heavily active on the Twitter machine here lately. Speaking my mind a little bit and trying to ruffle some feathers, not necessarily in the pro wrestling side of things, but the reality TV. I'm a big reality TV guy, so I've been kind of, barking around and having a little war of words with some of these reality guys. That's been kind of fun, but that's also Bret_Havoc. So yeah, I mean, and I've got new shirts getting ready to come out in a couple weeks, so I know a lot of people will be looking to get their hands on those, and I'll definitely be putting up graphics of that on all of those platforms as well.
Awesome, and I will definitely be keeping an eye out for those shirts, because I will be looking to grab one myself. Bret Havoc, man, appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. You were a fantastic guest.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, man. Guys, that was Bret Havoc. Definitely, guys, this was a great episode. Thanks to my guest, Bret Havoc. He was incredible, gave us some great stories and great insight on his career. Guys, let me let you know where you can find us. Guys, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Himalaya, Google Play. Everywhere that you want to be, hey, we can get you there. Guys, this is incredible. This meteoric rise here up in your house. Now we have a pro wrestling tee store. Check us out. It's coming up in the next couple days. That's pro wrestling tee / in your house. Guys, this has been a great episode. Episode 51 to be specific. And guys, that merger is coming. We're about to have anywhere between 17 and 20,000 followers on the Facebook page. The Twitter is starting to emerge a little bit. It's emerging a little bit. We're about to hit 20 followers. We're going to keep growing it just like we did the Facebook page. Twitter at In Your House. Guys, get on this bandwagon. Get on or get gone, because the household is coming strong. You guys have a great day and a great rest of your week. Peace.